guys, in this video I thought we would go back and revisit the DC Direct Batman Knightfall Bane figure. I believe when I first had a look at this figure it was about 8 years ago, so it was a long time ago, and I thought, you know what, it was time to go back and have a look at some of my favorite collectibles over the course of the years that I've been reviewing here. So we're going to go back and we're going to look at the DC Direct. This was the Batman series, Batman Knightfall Series 1 Bane. He did come with a display stand, which has the shattered Azrael Batman logo. It's a standard circular display stand. You can take the peg out, I believe, as well. It doesn't quite fit Bane, I should say, though. It kind of just attaches to the 1 foot, and, well, it doesn't quite fit the complete spacing and the large size of the feet that he has. And unfortunately, over the course of the time, too, I had a peg that broke off. Take some pliers or something like that to try to take the peg back from the underside heel of his foot. But nonetheless, he would come with a display stand. The display stand could have been certainly a lot larger, but he did come with that, as well as the other 4 figures as well. I don't know if I'll revisit all the figures from the Knightfall line, so if you guys like this particular video, let me know down below. Maybe I'll go back and revisit. I might, if anything, do the Catwoman, because I thought the Catwoman is still I think, a figure that holds up well today. Nonetheless, let's have a look at Bane. This is by far one of my favorite Bane figures. Bane is probably right up to the top of my top 5 favorite Batman villains. Now, this is under the banner of DC Direct, which would later then become the DC Collectibles line, but initially was DC Direct. And while he doesn't have not nearly the level of articulation that you would get with figures nowadays, I think he more than makes up for it with awesome sculpting. Awesome sculpting. Like, for example, let's start at his head and we'll work our way down. He's got the classic Bane mask, which has had some variations to it over the course of time, where you see his mouth in some, he's had some more stitching that's been added. Coloring has changed, but the mask generally stays around the same sort of look, unless you, of course, count the Dark Knight Rises Bane, which had a very drastic appeal, different look to him altogether. So I like the original, more iconic Batman Bane mask with just the white, and you've got the very cool eyes. Let me just zoom in here so we can see what I'm talking about here. For an older figure, I think this figure still stands to the course of time. That's what I wanted to say. But the eyes are nice metallic red, glistening here. You've also got the zipper that runs around the top portion of the mask all the way down to the back. Small little things go a long way for me. So like the little creases in where the mask has gone over his neck. I do like that quite a lot. And of course, you've got the pumps and the tubes pumping the venom into him, running all the way down to the console, the little control switch there on his wrists, or more so on his gloves there. One thing, though, you can chalk this particular Bane to have is muscles. Muscles and more muscles. This guy has a lot. I love how he's got the ripped, just bulging aspects on his forearms. You can see all the very tight musculature here on his shoulders, his biceps, and of course in his chest, which makes up the majority of that muscle sculpting. It's barely being held together by the tank top that he is wearing, or singlets that he's wearing there, that carry then down into his black legs and his black boots. Detailing nice on the boots themselves, with some stitching there on the side of the boots, as well as the undersole. No tread on the undersoles. Wish they could have done that, but you really aren't going to look at the figure from the underside of his feet anyways. Coloring on him is minimal, but I think where everything would be needed for this figure to have, he has, and then some. So majority-wise, his singlets and his legs are just solid black. A little bit of sheen going to the coloring of his boots. And he's also got the sheen in his gloves and his mask, of course, as well. As for the rest of his skin tone is kind of more of a warm flesh tone, kind of incorporating more like a darker peach color rather than a paler complexion here. It doesn't have any veins. They didn't sculpt any sort of veinage whatsoever in the figure itself. Nice, tight little wrinkles and stuff in the back of his tank top there as well. Now again, this figure is going to be a little limited when it comes to his posability. Let's run through that together. He does have a ball joint, somewhat ball joint in his head, although when you rotate his head, of course, it's going to give you a very limited run. This gets a very tight, taut feel when you rotate the head too much. But I mean, for it to clear that, I mean, you really don't need to have it rotate all the way around anyways, but it does give you a rotation left and right. The shoulders hinge out, so you can get a more behemoth grabbing stance for Bane there. I do like that. Rotates all the way around as well, and he does have a hinge in the elbow and a rotation in the hands. So like if you want to have the arms kind of more closed, closer towards Bane's torso, you can do that as well. Doesn't seem to have rotation in the waist. Never had a rotation in the waist to start off with. A rotation back and forth on the legs. That's all you're going to get, unfortunately. And a hinge in the knee, as well as a hinge in the foot. As a whole, though, really love this Bane. Always have loved this Bane, and to this day, it's still my favorite Bane figure in my entire collection. If you watch my reviews, you probably have seen that there's a lot of Banes out there on the market. Maybe not to the level of Jokers, for example, but there's certainly a lot of Banes that have been released over the course of time. And I have to honestly admit that this is one of my particular favorites. The other favorite of mine is also the DC Universe Collect and Connect Bane, which I might maybe do a follow-up for him at a later date. But I did want to have a look at this guy once again. Kind of just reminds me of when I was initially collecting figures 8 years ago when I did the review of this guy. 8 years ago. For somebody who says, you've been doing YouTube for a long time, this guy is one of the earlier reviews that we looked at on this channel, and I think it was a good amount of time that had passed before I decided I want to definitely have a look at this guy again. He was worth a revisit, and a revisit of Bane is what we got here. The stand could have, yes, been a little bit larger, but all around, I think this figure still holds the test of time. I think he still stands up well to other figures that you may have on your collection. Unfortunately, though, because he is an older figure, prices of him may vary. I know the Catwoman has skyrocketed to try to get a purple suit Catwoman. If you want to go back and get the Knightfall Catwoman, I think at one point I saw her for about $70 to $80. This guy may not be as much, but if you can find him for a good price, I think definitely would say for a Bane fan, pick him up. Today we're doing a throwback and a revisit of the original DC Direct. This was the Batman Knightfall. I think it was Series 1. It was pretty much the only series, and we're looking at Big Behemoth Bane right there. If you guys certainly like this video and haven't had a chance to watch the original video, although dated, some of those older videos of mine, really old, very dated, but you want to go back and check out the original video and let me know what you think there. And if you're also a fan of Bane, there's a Bane playlist. Did you know that? There's a Bane playlist on this channel. There is. You can go back and check out all those older Bane videos if you like as well. As always, guys, thanks for watching as you always do. I'll see you next time.